That looks better than
In here?
yeah.
I think you did me in here.
What it looked like before? I don't know, like the sound quality wasn't as
Oh,
good.
this.
Yeah.
Green.
Oh, yeah. No,
The quality. I thought you were the room. I was like, okay, we are live. We'll wait another minute or so and then I can check attendance. Pardon? Video? Oh, yeah, it is. If you click gallery here. There you go. Oh. Where is it? Can they see it? Are you able to see us okay? Yeah, okay. I don't know where we are. Yeah, that's I want to everyone can see it. You want me to connect the YouTube to TV? Yeah. We have quorum, so I'm going to get the meeting started off. If you have any trouble hearing us, let us know, but I'll make sure we're speaking loud enough. Might be a little too loud for everybody in the room, but we'll get going. So to start off the meeting, I'd like to do the land acknowledgement. I acknowledge with respect that we are in the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory, that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Hawaii. Hawaii is home to the Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. So just quickly, we have Madison here as a guest today. We'll do a really quick roundtable, but Madison's on a tight timeline. So we'll just quickly introduce ourselves and then I'll turn it over to Madison. So we're going to adjust the agenda slightly tonight so that we can get through her portion. Thank you. Sorry, I've got some childcare stuff going on. So we'll start quickly with Isabel.
Hello, I'm Isabel Michaud. I'm a visual artist and the owner and director of La Galerie Sans Clou. I'm happy to be here.
My name is Sean Neiman, and I'm for a second term at FOI and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Community Economic and Social Development at Oklahoma University.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angela Caputo. I am the Ward 3 City Councilor. This is my daughter. I don't know if you can see her. This is Leo, so she accompanies me from time to time to make sure everything's running well within the committees, you know.
Larry, you're first up on the screen.
Yeah, Larry Whalen. I was a Superior Court judge until I retired about 3 years ago. Before that, a lawyer. I've been involved in the arts community, both visual arts and performing arts, for many, many years. Right now, I'm the secretary of the Community Theater Center. And I live within sight of City Hall.
And Brenna. Oh, I think you're on mute, Brenna.
Hello.
Yep, that's better.
Here we go. That's it. Hi, I'm Brenna. Nice to meet everybody. It's my first term here, and I'm a local artist, writer, recreation therapist, mother, and I'm excited to learn from and work with everyone. So nice to meet you.
And Richard, you're up next.
Richard Walker. I was a partner at KPMG, which is an accounting firm, obviously not related to anything in the arts. But I am the president at the Canadian Bush Plane, and I also lead the City Beautification Awards.
I am Andre Bolduc. I'm currently filling in for the Arts and Culture admin position here at the city, helping out Virginia. And yeah, I'll be here observing, taking minutes tonight.
Miranda?
Hi, I'm Miranda Bouchard. I'm an artist, a curator, and an arts manager. I'm also the artistic director at Thinking Rock Community Arts in Thessalon, and this is my second term on the CVC. I'm very glad to be back and excited to work with you all.
Donna?
Donna Hilsinger, tourism and hospitality industry background, also in the arts with the Algoma Fall Festival and many other things. Second term with this committee. Hello, nice to see everyone again.
And Lewis?
Hello, everyone. My name is Louis Moreno, and I currently work at Ontario Lottery. I'm super excited to work with all of you, and this will be my first term. I apologize, my camera is not on. I'm still at work, so I'm multitasking, but I'm ready to take some notes.
Okay, so I am going to get it turned over to Madison. And well, you can take the screen. Yeah. Oh, I did that last week. That's okay. Yeah. There you go. There we go. Great. Thanks, everybody. My name is Madison Zupa. I'm the Deputy City Clerk for the city. And some of you have probably already heard this presentation, and it may be your second time in the last couple of weeks. We've been going to committee and board meetings for a variety of different groups to talk about meeting procedures. I apologize. I do have to go at 5 o'clock, but I'm going to try to whip through the material in case there's any questions. But certainly if there's any questions after the fact, you can either ask Virginia or certainly contact the clerk's office and we can sort that through. So boards and committees and local boards and committees of council include advisory and other committees or boards whose members are appointed by council for an ongoing purpose. Special committees appointed by council or the head of council at any time as being necessary. So you would have went through the application process. We appreciate everyone's patience as we went through a new application software this year. So we are working on tweaking that. So I appreciate that. If you would have submitted your application, it would have went to a task force for review. That task force makes recommendations to city council, and then city council will approve those or evaluate and approve those recommendations from the task force. So that's sort of the process that we go through. And there are ad hoc committees that are struck from time to time that for special purposes and different things. So there are a number of different boards and committees across the corporation. We do a comprehensive review midterm of the city council. Governance versus management. So council provides the governance and the oversight, the big picture stuff. And through the strategic planning process and all of that provides sort of the big picture. Where operations are the responsibility of staff. So the staff would bring those operational plans and strategies and budgets that align with the corporate strategic plan. And the board or the committee is an advisory capacity and will make recommendations for the consideration of council and approval. So you'll often in this committee I see them all the time come forward to city council making recommendations for different things. And there are options and opportunities for committee members to participate in events and special projects and subcommittees and things like that. But the committee as a whole is an advisory committee to council. So with accountability and transparency, we fall under a couple of different pieces of legislation, including the Municipal Act and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And we'll get into a little bit of conflict of interest later in the presentation. Most of what we're going through is the city procedures bylaw, and it kind of outlines the rules of procedure and those types of things. And the code of conduct is something that is a guiding document as well. And we will be circulating that to all the staff liaisons so that you can read it and understand what's inside of it and what it covers. We'll talk about that later in the presentation as well. So the procedure bylaw is bylaw 2022-100. It applies to calling and proceedings of meetings of council and of local boards and committees. In that, committee is defined, it means any advisory or other committee, subcommittee, or similar entity of which at least 50% of the members are also members of one or more councils or local boards.
Local board, just as a note, does not include the police services board or the public library board because they fall under a different legislative framework. So we define a meeting as any regular, special, or other meeting of the council or the local board or committee or either of them where a quorum of members is present and where members discuss or otherwise deal with any matter in a way that materially advances the business or decision-making of the council, local board, or committee. So there are going to be times where you might be at like a local event and you have enough members to make quorum, but you're not materially advancing the business of the committee. That's okay. You might be, like I said, out at a community event and you have everybody there. But if you have quorum and discuss business, that constitutes a meeting and it needs to be open to the public and there needs to be notice. So just be mindful of that if you are out and about in the community, you do have a quorum of members to not talk business. Group emails also can constitute a meeting. So if you email a quorum of members of the committee, it will constitute a meeting and should not occur because it can't meet the open meeting provisions. So you have to be able to give the public an opportunity to see the decision making can happen. It's in real time and happening. So no group emails.
And usually if I do send an email to the group, I ask that it be replied to me only. So if I'm collecting information, it comes to me, so we're not violating that rule.
So the agenda is set by the chair and you'll be having elections after this presentation, I understand. So the agenda will be set by the chair in consultation with staff. It's posted to the website at least 24 hours in advance. A week is ideal, but we get that sometimes timelines are tight. And include all the attachments for your open meetings. So the public should have access to all the material that the committee will have access at the open meeting. The business considered in order set forth on the agenda, the chair may vary. So, if something makes sense or you have someone here to answer questions on an item, you can move that up if it makes sense. You can vary the agenda, but just, it has to go through the chair and make sure that everyone's okay with the changes. A member may ask that a motion is placed on the agenda, provided they have a seconder. And that's also to make sure that it's like a notice of motion. So you want to make sure that you don't cover any business at this meeting that hasn't been already included in the agenda. And then again, you haven't given the public proper notice to that discussion. So you could put something on the agenda today for the next meeting. So if it's not already on there, you can add it to the next meeting as long as you have a reference. So meetings shall be open to the public and no person shall be excluded therefrom except for improper conduct. Notice of meetings are published on the city's website, including both the agendas and minutes, and Virginia and our comms team worked through getting that up there. The public may record by video or audio. So you may have from time to time people just come in and observe the meeting in here, and they may just set a recorder down to record so that they can review it later. We now have our meetings streamed on YouTube, so people will go back to those meetings as well and view them that way. And the subcommittees are subject to the procedure bylaw and open meeting provisions as well. So you may strike a subcommittee for a special purpose, but we still need to have agendas posted on the website ahead of time. We still need to live stream those subcommittees. So I think there was a misconception in the past that subcommittees weren't subject to those same rules of procedure, but they are, and notice provisions. Oh, the teeny tiny font slide, I apologize. I'm not going to go through this whole slide. These are under section 239, subsection 2 of the Municipal Act. Meetings can only be closed if the matters relate to these items, and it's A through K. At the bottom of the slide, it says the section of the Act is permissive, not prescriptive, and may be closed for these reasons. We always encourage that it can be an open, it should be an open. And I don't know all the nature of this committee to determine what might qualify as closed, but personally identifiable information might be something, trade secret, I don't know, one of those types of matters. But certainly if you have any questions about what can go into closed, you can reach out to the clerk's office and we can help assist with that. Yeah, we can move on to the next one. There is an exception for educational and training sessions. So a meeting of council or local board or committee or either of them may be closed to the public if the following conditions are both satisfied. The meeting is held for the purpose of educating or training the members, and no member discusses or otherwise deals with any matter in a way that materially advances the business or decision making of the council, local board, or committee. So it goes back to that materially advancing business, right? So if you're in for training and educational sessions, that's fine, but you don't want to veer off and start talking about something else that's going to materially advance the business of the committee. Oh, electronic meetings. So we're here today, live stream to YouTube on an electronic meeting platform. I always tell the story that in September of 2019, I joined the clerk's office. I've worked for the municipality for 13 years now, but I joined clerks in 2019, and then the pandemic hit. And we had to move fast, and we had to be, we had to adapt and be flexible. And there was a number of different ways we kind of made it through the pandemic and ways we did meetings. So the Municipal Act did change to allow participants to be part of quorum. So if you participate electronically, as we do have a number of members today, you count as part of, if you're a voting member, you can vote. Prior to the pandemic, you could participate in the meeting electronically, but you wouldn't count as quorum, as part of quorum. So that has been a change now to the Municipal Act. We've changed it, their procedure bylaw, and we don't see that going back. So we are going to continue along with that as well. One of the ways that we help promote transparency and accountability is by having the YouTube channel and this being live streamed. What we did find at the beginning of the pandemic, as well as that when we were using our electronic meeting platform, we would have to have the people register to come into the meeting to observe it. We can't do that. You have to have a way that the public can access and observe the decision making in real time right on the agenda. So we put the YouTube link now on all embedded in all our agendas to make sure, because we did have an ombudsman investigation for 2 meetings, which was a great learning experience. And I'm going to say this because we were evolving and trying our best, and we steered right in the right course right after, right? And it was such a moving, and we're trying to figure it all out. So it was a good learning experience for us to say, how can we do it better? What are the best practices? Other municipalities were struggling as well to figure things out. And one of the other investigations that resulted from another municipality in Southern Ontario was that the live stream dropped and they still continued their meeting. And what I would suggest, and based on the outcomes of that investigation, if your live stream drops, adjourn the meeting, even if it's temporarily to get your tech back on. You can put something out if it's a little bit longer to say, hey, there's been a disruption, but don't continue on materially advancing the business if you lose your live stream. And sometimes you might have a power outage or something like that. You're going to adjourn the meeting and reschedule for another day, kind of thing. I have to play it by ear and what the situation is. But certainly, if you lose that live stream, we're going to end the meeting. Closed meeting investigations. So I talked about the Office of the Ombudsman. The Municipal Act provides that a person may request an investigation by the provincial ombudsman as whether the council or board met improperly in closed session. They investigate, provide report, and provide recommendations if found to have met improperly in closed, and the council must pass a resolution to how it intends to address the report. So like I said, we did have a couple of investigations that went on during the pandemic, and we course corrected straight away. We just got the reports not too long ago. We put them on the council agenda. We said, yes, we're going to implement these recommendations, which we had already over the course of that time, but certainly always wanting to look to improve and have best practices. So rules of conduct and debate. The chair presides. So this is information good for your upcoming election. The board and committee meetings are held in the committee of the whole. So you'll see a council meeting and it'll be like, through you, Mr. Mayor, to councilor so and so. When you're in committee meetings, those are more relaxed. So you can speak to items more than once, or the chair still is going to help keep the flow of the meeting and make sure we don't go off topic or kind of wrap things up if people are going on a little too long. But the number of times you speak and how long you can speak for will be a little bit less formal than, say, a city council meeting. The conduct of members. So no member shall not disobey the provisions of this bylaw or a decision of the chair on questions of order of practice or upon the interpretation of the rules of procedure or breach parliamentary decorum. So we just want to make sure that people are being respectful, and the chair will be responsible for ensuring the meeting is that way. I have circulated a cheat sheet, as we call it, in our clerk's office on the order of motions and things like that. So Virginia has that available to her, and I'll circulate it as she sees necessary. So the motion shall be in writing, and the operative clause shall commence with the words resolved that and shall be moved and seconded. And a member who wishes to introduce a motion not on the agenda that is of substantive nature must introduce the motion as a notice of motion. So that's what I was talking about earlier in the meeting, where if it's not on the agenda today, but you want to kind of table it for the next meeting, that's a notice of motion. The finality of the vote. So subject to a motion to reconsider, a motion once decided may not be reintroduced for 12 months. So that's to also help not have the same topic brought up at every single meeting just because, you know, one person did like the outcome of the group's decision. So certainly a motion to reconsider is a possibility. So if you have, what's your membership? 11. So you have something that went 6-5, whatever the motion might be. You can bring back a motion to reconsider. Is it if someone at 6 puts it forward, and the seconder also has to be a member of the 6 or someone who is absent from the meeting. So say you had 9 and it was 5-4. So someone from the 5 side will bring it forward, and then either someone who is on the 5 side or was absent from the meeting can also second the motion to reconsider. So, but if you have questions about that, certainly talk to Virginia, we can help. It doesn't happen all that often, but it can. The relevance of the debate. So on all motions and discussions must be relevant to the subject under consideration. Again, we go back to that public notice. In open and especially in closed too, you want to make sure you're only talking about those subject matters that are on the agenda so that you don't veer off or then end up in an investigation for talking about something you shouldn't have in a closed meeting. Quorum, the mayor is an ex officio member of all committees but not counted in quorum. No business shall be conducted or considered unless a quorum is present. Quorum is a majority of members and is lost during the meeting. If it's lost, the meeting will end. You don't want to make any decision points if quorum is lost. But quorum is not lost by virtue of a declaration of a conflict of interest. So if you had, you said you had 11, so your quorum is what, 6. Yes. So if you had 6 members here at the meeting and one person declared a conflict of interest, you could still vote on that matter because you're lost because of conflict. So that's okay. So those 5 members would vote. So the administration, the secretary shall keep minutes and record without note or comment. So we don't keep narrative in the minutes. We just keep the decision points and action items. So that's what we mean by without note or comment. Provide notice of the meetings, post the meetings to the minutes of the minutes and the agenda to the website or work with our comms team to do that. Perform the clerical functions of the committee as required. The chair of the committee votes. I think it's a common misconception too that the chair only votes in the event of a tie, but they do vote on all the votes. A recorded vote, I don't know if you've ever had a recorded vote in the committee, but it's when you want to have in the record who voted in what way for any kind of. So you would have that actually in the meeting. You would go around the table, say everyone's name, how they voted, and then you record that in the minutes as well. There's no abstention. So if you're here and you choose not to vote, it still counts. You can't abstain from the vote. And a tied vote is defeated. You have an odd number of members, so that would only usually happen if there was a conflict or if someone was absent. So it's better to have those. Ombudsman of Ontario, the closed meeting investigator, unless another party is selected to act as such. There are municipalities across Ontario that choose to have an internal investigator. They can review complaints about administrative actions and decisions of municipalities, but they can't overturn the decisions of elected officials or direct them on public policy. We get reports on best practices or things like that. The Integrity Commissioner investigates the application of the Code of Conduct. So the Integrity Commissioner is someone who is like they're different than the Office of the Ombudsman. They deal with the application of the Code of Conduct for members of council and local boards and committees. The application of any procedures, rules, policy governing ethical behavior. The application of conflict of interest to members of council, local boards and committees, and requests from members for advice regarding obligations under the Code of Conduct, procedures, rules, policies, or the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And they provide provision of education information regarding these items. So we are doing a review this year of the code of conduct. I know the province had requested input from municipalities across Ontario over the last couple of years. So once, the province may come out with some information to help direct municipalities on code of conduct. But until we receive that information, we're going to go ahead with a fulsome review. The code of conduct addresses gifts and benefits, confidentiality, use of board property, influence on staff, improper use of influence. And as committee members, you may, you may receive information that is confidential in nature, and I would just put a little star beside that to ensure we keep information that is provided as in confidence that way. The complaints alleged in the violations are investigated by the Integrity Commissioner, and the results of those investigations are reported to both council and the local boards. So the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act deals with pecuniary, or we say financial interests. So whether that's indirect or direct. What we say is the members of the committee are responsible for declaring conflict of interest. So you may have, I want to say, an application for funding, and you might be related, or you might have involvement in that particular organization. And if you have a financial interest, either positive or negative, of the outcome of that vote, that's when you would ask yourself, do I have a conflict of interest? And you would declare it in writing. And you don't take part in any of the discussion. In an open meeting, you can remain in the room. A lot of people choose to leave the room just to not, try to influence the vote. In closed, you must leave the room. Like, you can't be in the room if you have a conflict of interest on a closed matter. And you should not attempt in any way to influence the vote. So the interest also extends to the interest of family members. So it's not just only your personal interest, but of that of the family. And there are specific parameters around who that includes. We talked about that. So when you're absent from a meeting, if you still had a conflict, you should declare it at the next open meeting that you have. The disclosure is recorded in the minutes. And this is just a point where we talked about if you lose quorum because of a conflict, you can still go unless it's less than 2, right? This is dealing with indirect pecuniary interest, so related to shareholders, directors, if you have controlling interest in, or a director or senior officer of a corporation, member of a body that has a pecuniary interest in the matter, or a partner or person in the employment of a person or body that has pecuniary interest. So this is all very heavy kind of jargon, but if we go to the next slide, it's kind of the slide that we put up to say, here are the questions you should ask yourself. Like, we can't tell you if you have a conflict of interest or not, you have to declare that yourself. But if you ask yourself, do I have a financial interest in the decision, both either positive or negative? Does it directly affect my finances or those of my parent, spouse, or child? Is it indirect? Am I a shareholder, corporate officer, member of a body, partner, or employee? And if yes, and not exemptions, declare a conflict in writing and do not attempt to interrupt. So this slide is something you can always look to be, hey, if you feel like you have a conflict and you have some questions about it, we can certainly chat about that after as well. But we're these are the questions we point people to help define that. There are some exceptions that by reason of the member having a pecuniary interest, which is an interest in common with everybody. So you might have something that's in conflict with all of the members of the board or the committee, or something that's so insignificant or remote that it can't be reasonably regarded to influence the members. So we always say, talking about or something, something that's just really insignificant. But if there's a significant decision of the committee and you have a conflict, declare it. Municipal Freedom of Information Act. So this is another piece of legislation that that applies. It's to protect the privacy of individuals, provide for the disclosure of certain records upon request. We apply the best practice in private release documents, which would already be publicly available. So agendas, minutes, council reports, things like that. And one of the points I just want to make is that communications regarding the business of the municipality are considered a record regardless of the device that you use. So if you're texting on your personal phone about business of the municipality, it's still considered a corporate record, even though it's on your personal device. So be mindful of that. And I just think some people think it's like, oh, I'm going to over here, it's still a corporate record. and subject to FOI. And I'll just put this out there. We love getting information from the public. Public input is a high priority for the municipality. But committees and boards are subordinate and accountable within council. And we just want to make sure that statements critical of city council as a starting point, it's not. And we've had an experience in the past where this slide comes from. It's not necessarily this committee or anything like that. But we want to make sure that people understand that. But we do want to see public input, and we aren't always going to have positive public input. So that's certainly something we really want to promote. But these committees are subordinate to city council, so we just wanted to make sure that that we put that slide in. And we're good. That's I know I whipped through it. I was super fast. I apologize. I do have to head out in a couple of minutes, but I do have a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions. Sure.
No extension.
Yes.
So there are no extensions?
No.
You have to vote yes or no?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
If you abstain, it goes into the
nose.
the nose. Yes. So if you don't put up your hand, but what I would suggest too is, like in council, we'll go through the list,
Right.
and if we see someone not vote, we'll usually say, "Oh, Sean, how would you in this committee?" And say, "Sean, how would you like to vote?" And then, yeah, there's no abstentions. If you're not here, you can't vote. That's something else. But yeah, if you're here, then. Any other questions online? I know it's a lot of information. I apologize. It's probably pretty overwhelming, but if you want to go through the slide deck, or if you have any questions, Virginia and I are always in contact. We're always working together on boards and committee stuff. So happy to answer anything offline or later down the road if it comes up or if you think of something. Or if you elect a chair and the chair has questions about procedure, we can certainly deal with that at that time. I don't see anything online, but I can stop the share.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to 2.2, election of officers for 2023. If I could have somebody to move and second the following motion. Resolve that nominations be open for the position of chair for the Cultural Vitality Committee for 2023. Donna? And Sean seconding it. And all in favor? And motion carries. Okay, so is there any nominations for the position of chair?
Can I nominate someone?
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Donna Hosinger for position of chair. Donna, do
I'll
you
second.
accept? Donna?
Oh, come on, Bob, you can do it.
Well, I am chairing another committee, and I was hoping that, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to say right now.
Do we want to see if we have other nominations and then we can go from there?
Could we do that? I would certainly do it if that was the will of the group. However, there are other people around the proverbial table who are eminently qualified and have done very well in the past.
Okay, so are there any other nominations? Larry?
Sean has done a really good job, so I would nominate him.
I have similar feelings to Donna.
Let Donna off the hook.
Are there any other nominations? All right. Well, wasn't prepared for this one.
Am I allowed to withdraw my acceptance of the nomination? Can I do that? Because if I can, that's what I would choose to do at this moment. Thank you, Angela.
Welcome.
If Well, okay, one thing that I will say before anything else is that I do think that it is really good practice for rotating chairs to build capacity within committees. And also our own familiarity with rules of procedure. And though I appreciate the compliment, Larry, I'm not sure the ombudsman's report really reflects that I did a great job last time.
You
But
did do a great job.
I would if nobody else is interested at this point.
Are there any other nominations? No, so do you accept them?
Sure.
Sure. All right. So I would need a mover and seconder. Resolve that Sean Eden was declared chair of the Cultural Vitality Committee for 2023. And Donna. All right. I'll make it easy for you. So a mover and a seconder for the following motion. Resolve that nominations be open for the position of vice chair for the Cultural Vitality Committee for 2023. I'll pick Donna and Miranda. Okay, are there any nominations for the position of vice chair? Oh, Larry?
I'd nominate Donna. She won't be called upon much, but you know, she's a good touchstone. She understands how it all works.
Are there any other nominations? And other nominations? No. Donna, do you accept vice chair?
I do. Thank you, Virginia.
Okay. So the motion, mover and seconder, resolve that Donna Hilsinger is declared vice chair of the Cultural Vitality Committee for 2023. And I think Larry, you moved that. Seconder Richard. And all in favor? And motion carries. Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Sean. And the only change with the agenda right now is that the agenda motion will be that it was amended since I moved the presentation forward.
Thank you so much. And to your point, it's easy to be a good chair when support from folks like you're doing. Also, just an incentive for next year. Anybody who wants to take over. So the next item on the agenda is the adoption of minutes. That was included in the package of this meeting. And take a minute to review the minutes that were distributed. And whenever anyone who was present at the meeting is wanting to move it forward, so that would be either Donna, Miranda, myself, or Larry. We have to move by Donna, seconded by Miranda. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of adopting the minutes, please raise your hand or signify otherwise. Anybody abstain or, well, sorry, anybody opposed? Raise your hand now. And the motion is carried. Item number 4, declaration of any pecuniary interest related to items on this agenda. Any declarations? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, adoption of the agenda as amended. Is there a mover for the motion? Moved by Brenna, seconded by Miranda. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands or signify in some other way. And anybody opposed? No, please raise your hand or otherwise signify. And the motion carries. Item number 6, business revising. We'll move to this one here on this presented. So it's the community recognition award presentation. The tentative finalized date is March 20th. And I'll go to Virginia for an update.
So last fall, the committee had selected 2 groups for the Community Recognition Award. As we got into elections and Christmas season, it became a little bit late to do the award ceremony. So we've been trying to land on a date between Medal of Merit and budget. So working with the mayor's office right now, and then I'll be looking with the groups. So we are tentatively targeting the 20th, which will be the next meeting of council. For the next one's on the 21st for that presentation. And yeah, looking forward to recognizing Nola and so.
On that, for kind of refresher for me and probably some other people in the committee, was there was like a review recently of the awards and those things too. Yeah, can you share?
Is agenda items in order.
See, okay.
Yeah.
Getting ahead of myself here. Any questions on the Community Recognition Award? So for those of you who are joining the committee, we will have another award, Community Recognition Award, nomination period and vote coming up, but this is held over from the previous year. All right, seeing no other comments or questions, item number 7 is subcommittee workshop updates. We don't have any to my knowledge.
Not at this point. There will be some work coming forward. So we are exploring the public art master plan. So we will be pulling together a working group. So we have been working on mapping and we'll be bringing that hopefully in the next month or so the committee can see what work we've done recently and kind of we'll turn to the next steps. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, oh, sorry, Donna, you have a question.
Could Virginia, could you remind me about the public art master plan / working group? Did we form a working group in the last, I realize it's probably defunct if we did, but I'd be certainly interested, as you know, in participating in working on that plan, but can you just help us understand the process, especially for the people who are new here? Because it's such a huge opportunity for the community, and just if you could share that, thanks.
So the previous committee worked on helping work through the whole process of developing a public art policy. So we did have a group that assisted with that process so that we could bring that, and that was brought to council for approval. So the next step now is to really look at having that public art master plan. So we had some discussions last fall with Donna, and one of the things that we started to do is take a look at mapping where all of the existing public art is, so we can at least have that mapped out nicely and the inventory. And then from there, we can start to look at locations that we do want to look at placing art in. So step 1 right now, what we've been working on is actually just those maps of where it exists, what the piece is, when the piece was installed. So that's kind of what we've been doing for the past few months. So I'm looking forward to bringing that information to the committee, and then we will be looking at forming a group and nominating members to work on that.
Yes, because if I recall, we also discussed, you know, like a longer term strategy, a 3 to 5 year, maybe even up to 10-year strategy around around the funds that would be needed to implement something like that, and including, you know, different types of themes and community consultation and so on. So that's great. I'm glad to see it moving ahead. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments on this? The public art master plan discussion or any other potential task force or thing? Larry. Oh, you're currently muted, just so you know.
Just as a follow-up to Donna's questions and comments, it may have been covered, but sometimes the talk here is a little garbled from your end. Will we be reviewing that policy in the near future? At one of our meetings?
Sorry, the public art policy?
Yes,
I can recirculate the one that we worked on previously with the committee.
but will we be revisiting it? I mean, we have some new members. I wasn't aware that council had passed it even.
Yeah, I can recirculate what the committee worked on and what we brought to past meetings so that all the new members have that information. And we just passed the policy at council, so I don't know if we'd be doing any updates in the immediate future, but I will make sure that I get that out to everybody.
I probably get my hand slapped, but I don't watch all the council meetings. Or read the minutes.
Yeah, well, the committee here approved the policy first before it went to council. So once the Cultural Vitality Committee reviewed it, your recommendations were taken to council for final approval.
Well, maybe you could send it to us at least, a copy.
Yeah, I will do that.
And to your point there, like if there's a strong appetite from the committee after reviewing the policy that there need to be changes, I mean, we can bring forward that recommendation or strike a subcommittee to look at those potential revisions. But if there's nothing pressing, then the assumption I think we're just
Well, the reason for my question is implementation, of course. Where do we move forward? And I have to refresh my mind on what it is. And I think some of our colleagues here would, should see it.
absolutely no question there. Any other comments or questions?
I would just throw in one more thing. If there are other, I don't know, did the new members, Virginia, receive any type of like package? We did do a significant amount of like updated work in the last term. So from my recollection, there was the public art policy and there were several other things that various of us worked through. And I just, if they don't already have those things, it probably would be great for their background.
Cool. Cultural plan. Yeah. That's it. Okay. I'll go back to see what I sent. I know I sent out the plan for sure, but I'll double check to see if the other supporting documents were linked in the email body.
So Virginia, you did send out.
Yeah, but potentially creating like a drive that we could all access so you can have it available on a regular basis. Might be helpful.
Yeah, we do have, and I'll send the links to we do keep all those documents on the city's website for easy access. So I'll make sure that I send you all the spots where those are, okay?
So Virginia, you did send out what I'll call a strategic plan. I think it was for 2019 to 2024, which was great. But what I don't know is what's been accomplished in the last 3 years and what we want to accomplish in the next 2. So if somehow or other, maybe staff can pull that together, that would be most helpful.
Yeah, I'll provide an update on where we're at the next meeting.
Thank you all very much. Are there any other comments or questions? None, we'll move on to new business. I'm sorry, I think another direction.
That's all right.
New business. Number 1 is city awards. So the discussion that I presented earlier. Virginia.
So in January 9th, Madison, who you just met, took a report to City Council, and it was with regards to various city awards. So it included the Community Development Award, which is distributed by the Planning Department, the Community Recognition Award, which is done through the Cultural Vitality Committee, the Municipal Heritage Award, the Sports Hall of Fame Award, and the Walk of Fame Award. So in your package, Madison's report is included. And what the recommendation to council was, is that we look at combining all the awards into one larger award ceremony, and honoring all the recipients during one evening. So this will bring greater recognition to a number of the awards, and also bring everybody together in the community. The clerk's department would take care of taking all the applications in. They would compile everything, and then the applications would come back to the committees so that they could review and select the recipient for the awards they oversee. From there, we would work on planning a night in the fall when all of the recipients are honored.
Thanks for the update. Any comments or questions about city awards? And also the criteria for that is both accessible on the city website under the Recreation and Culture Division, but that's typically also circulated prior to us receiving the applications or nominations for the awards. All right, the item 8.2 is arts and culture assistance applications.
So this is just a reminder that the applications for the second intake will be due the last Friday of the month, which is March 24th this year. And then from there, we'll be working on compiling the applications and getting them out to committee members for review. But it is a fairly lengthy process sometimes. So I'm more than happy to sit down with committee members and set up a couple sessions prior to go over all the different programs that we do, including this one, just so that you can ask questions if you have any questions about the application process and the types of grants that we do distribute. Part 2 of that is the applications that were reviewed in the early intake and made the recommendation. That report is going to council February 21st. Normally that report would go right at the beginning of January, but due to budget, due to the elections this year within the municipality, the budget deliberations, which normally happen in December, were postponed until this week. So it's going to be on the first agenda following the approved budget, which is the 21st.
Any questions on the arts and culture assistance program?
Can I make a comment and an offer?
Absolutely.
So we've chatted before as a committee about the possibility of hosting info sessions or support sessions for potential applicants. And I just want to extend, Virginia, if there's anything that I can do between now and this upcoming deadline to support any sort of support, feel free to call on me. I'm happy to help.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Miranda. That would be fabulous.
I'll throw my hand in there too.
All right.
Any other comments or questions on arts and culture assistance? Now, one thing that I will mention about that is that we did in previous years develop some procedures that we use to guide us in our deliberations around the dissemination of that fund. Those are reviewed at every single one of the intakes, right? So that's the first item of discussion that occurs when we look at those applications. So it's not set in stone, but it is basically the guidelines that we collectively agree to adhere to. And so I will also make sure that you have those resources as well. At the very least, they'll come with the applications, but I think I have a copy I can send it out. That's it. If there's any other questions. Then moving on to item 8.3, the ombudsman report. Do you want to take that over?
Yeah,
I can speak to it.
So in your package, this is what was included in the council package. So there's 2 parts. There is the resolution that was included in the January 30th package, but also the correspondence that was included for council in the January 9th package. So I think Madison covered off a lot of the key points. So, you know, obviously, as we were maneuvering through COVID and some changes, it's just a reminder to be vigilant, to make sure that, you know, we have accurate information and, you know, we are open to all with our YouTube links. So you'll see that the YouTube links are included in the agenda package that is posted on the website, but you'll also have information as to where to attend in person as well. So that you'll see in the link, it'll say via Zoom or through the Thompson room or whatever location it happens to be. So that will be your actual local invite versus the agenda package that's posted on the city's website. And again, you know, we just have to be wary of closed sessions, and yeah, so the whole report's there and it's there for your information. Unless there's any questions on that. I have a question. Is this provincial? Yeah, it's a provincial body, so and they do reports on any, if somebody has a question about the way a meeting is handled, they'll do an investigation and provide municipality with feedback. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? None. We'll move on to correspondence.
There isn't any correspondence.
Good. Next item is our next meeting.
I did keep the meeting date blank. We are technically would be scheduled to have our meeting the third Wednesday. The third Wednesday does fall in the middle of March break, so I didn't know if that was potentially an issue for quorum or not. So I wanted to poll the committee to see if that March 15th date is difficult. If so, we could look at moving it to 22nd. Nothing here much. Okay. Is March break an issue for anybody else? No. Everybody's good? Okay. So we probably will still hold it on the March 15th date. I just wanted to do a poll to see if that's going to be an issue for quorum. But it looks like we should have quorum, so.
I don't
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You could do this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so it'll be March 15th at 4:30 then. So we'll keep with our regular schedule. I wish I was going.
All right. Any final comments or questions? Donna?
I just would, I didn't think to ask this when Madison was still there. So on the issue of conflict, and she mentioned written, and I don't know that we've ever done that before, the written writing. So perhaps at some point, you know, share that document with us that we need to complete if we do have a conflict, so that we get that to you in advance of the meeting. That's all.
Yeah. I'll clarify with Donna if you actually have to submit it in writing in advance, or if if you look at the minutes that we're actually have it written that it's been declared in that. I'll double check with her though.
I know in council you have to put it in writing and sign something that says I have a conflict on this matter, but if that's the same rules that are being followed, then that it would require something different than what we're used to doing, which is simply declaring it. But we'll just get that straight so everybody knows.
Yeah, I'll double check. Thanks, Donna.
You're
So
welcome.
Tourism Sault Ste. Marie does exactly what you talked about, Donna. You have to write it out. So, and there's a document that Travis would have.
We'll find out. That's how it happens.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a mover? Moved by Angela, seconded by Brevis. All those in favor, please raise your hand, or otherwise signify your being in favor. And anybody opposed, please Raise your hand or do it. Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody. I look forward to working with everyone this year or the next 2 years. Have a great night.